Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Well, if you've watched our videos before, you probably are aware that I've reviewed some of the Ruger Lcr series already. We've looked at 9mm, 22, we've even looked at a Lcr X, and out of all of them, the Ruger Lcr 38+P, this is not only my favorite in the Ruger Lcr line, but this is also my favorite 38 Special plus P revolver overall. And I'm going to tell you exactly why in just a minute. Alright, once again, welcome back. Thanks for being with us today. If this is your first time coming to the channel, or if you've watched our videos before and just have not had a chance to do so before now and you like our content, please consider subscribing. You can do that by locating that little subscribe button in the lower right hand corner there of your computer screen, or if you're on a mobile device, you can scroll down below the video and hit subscribe that way. Don't forget to hit the little bell because it'll tell you when we do something new. It's a simple thing that helps out a whole lot, and we really appreciate it. So, Ruger Lcr. I've mentioned these in other videos, but and I'm going to get into this more, but just kind of an overview of why these are great. When you're looking for something for carry, size and weight make such a big difference. And you see so many people that show you, really fancy, large capacity handguns with all kinds of accessories on them, and you probably ask yourself, how do they carry that? And the answer is, in a lot of cases, they don't. It looks cool, but if you can't find something that's realistic as a carry gun, you probably will find that you're not actually carrying it all the time. Now, just for a little size comparison, as we mostly do, one of my other favorite revolvers that I carry with regularity is just a little 642 Smith & Wesson here. Now, this is also a plus P, and I like this little revolver quite a bit. And if you look at it right next to the Ruger, you'll see that, the overall length is pretty close. The frames are pretty close. You got a bigger trigger guard on the Ruger here, which I like. I have no problem with an oversized trigger guard. The grip is where the big difference is. The gun gets a little fatter right here because the Ruger has a bigger grip. Now, because it's this large rubberized grip, to me this doesn't really make any difference, and it makes it larger because this will be up against the body, and it's not going to be uncomfortable if it's sticking out the top of your holster. But if you've carried any Smith revolvers and you're familiar with kind of the sizing on that, that gives you a pretty good idea of what that little Lcr is going to be like. And once again, that's one of the first things that you need to look at, because size and weight are going to be critical in the decision for you to carry. All right, we're going to jump right into the features here, but before we do, we're going to take just a moment to thank our friends over at Don's Weaponry for providing us this beautiful example of the Ruger Lcr in 38 Special plus P. Don's Weaponry is a huge supporter of firearm safety and education, and we can't thank them enough. So, looking this over here, obviously your cylinder release button's right here. We'll just use that so you can see that we are empty and the weapon is perfectly safe. So we're going to do our little top-down analysis like we normally would. Now, the one thing you'll find that's very basic on this revolver, and like many revolvers of its kind, is the sights. You see just a white, strip here that's painted into the top of this sight. It's just a little ramp sight on the front, and you've got a small portion of it there that is painted white. And then, of course, the actual frame here has got a groove, you can see, cut into it. So when you line up the groove with that little white mark there, it gives you a decent little sight picture. It's not fancy, but let's be honest. We're talking about an extremely small barrel on the gun. So this is not something that's going to be for precision shooting anyway. This, to me, is what a self-defense handgun is all about. It's close range, it's light, and it's compact. So, small sight. Of course, I showed you a cylinder release. I'll let you see that again. That's pretty easy to get out. Cylinder turns pretty free. All these LCRs I've had had the ability to look at here, have my hands on, have all been very nice. You know, the finish is pretty good. The function is good. They're not fancy, but they don't need to be. We talked about that trigger guard. Well, the reason I like that, you know, I've got kind of long fingers here, big hands. I can very easily get my finger inside that trigger guard with not a whole lot of work. The trigger we'll talk about in just a second when we talk about the range. And then the grip. I mentioned it has this large rubber grip. Depending on what kind of revolvers used to shooting, you may have wood grips, you may have, you know, rubber grips, you may have, G10 grips. It just depends. But I think that a good standard grip, a rubber grip with a little bit of texture like this, I think is really great. It has the kind of two-finger profile, and some people aren't a big fan of that. But if you have two fingers and they have these indentions, well, it's very ergonomic. The grip, you can kind of see here from the side where it kind of falls off. So your hand, once you've got your fingers here, your hand kind of falls into a little natural groove in your fingers right where it needs to be. So this two-finger grip feels very good. It doesn't feel like that I need something for my pinky. Now, there are some two-finger grips that I've tested I didn't feel that way about. But this one feels pretty good. So, like I say, it's a very basic kind of setup, but that's not a bad thing. And of course, I was talking about why this is my favorite. Well, we'll get into part of that too at the range, but just as far as operation. So obviously, you may notice there is no hammer on this gun. So this is a double action only, which means that you're going to have to pull the trigger and get that cylinder to move around each time to take a shot. And like I say, one of my other favorite carry revolvers is the same way. And I know a lot of people out there, they just absolutely, the idea of double action only to them is just horrifying, because people, a lot of people like to be able to, you know, cock the hammer back and have that single action shot. The reason that I think that this is the best option for carry is just because, A, double action is going to require more effort, you know, more trigger weight than a single action shot, which makes the gun inherently safer, because you have to put more effort in the trigger. Accidentally pulling the trigger is going to be kind of hard to do, especially if you have it, the trigger protected with a proper holster. But also there's nothing to snag. You know, if you have this in a pocket holster or wherever, and you're manipulating the gun, it's impossible for you to pull this out and catch that hammer on something and accidentally pull the hammer back for it to fall. So as far as configuration, I think that this is one of the safest configurations that you can get. And so if you're a new shooter, if you're someone that's thinking about getting into concealed carry, or not even for carry, just for defense in general, and you want something with very few question marks for safety, well, this is an excellent way to get into defensive handgun ownership with a lot of those question marks removed. It's easy to load, it's easy to verify that it's safe, and all you have to do is pull the trigger. And if you have something happen, if there's a bad round of ammunition, once again, you can just pull the trigger and go to the next one. So, of course, there are those occasional times when a bad round ends up being a delayed round or something. That's pretty rare. But the very fact that you can just keep pulling the trigger and go to another round, that's yet another safety feature as far as I'm concerned. So, not taking anything away from semi-autos, because I have plenty of them and I love them. And the gun I would take into combat, if I could only take one, is definitely going to be a semi-auto handgun. But I think revolvers have an important place in self-defense, and I think they have a really good place for concealed carry. And I think the more revolvers that a person looks at, the more they can make that determination. But this has just exactly what you need and a self-defense carry handgun. It has good basic features. It's safe. It has a good size and a good weight. Okay, so let's talk about how this gun performs. Taking it to the range, just practice shooting, that kind of thing. I like the triggers on these. I'll show you again. You can see that we are safe here. But the one thing I like is difference in triggers. And once, not taking anything away from the other guns, but like with this little Smith here, once again, you can see that we are safe. When I pull the trigger on the Smith, I feel like that it kind of builds, like the weight is getting stronger and stronger until the break point there, which is okay. It's a good trigger, but the further back you go, the more effort that you're putting into the trigger pull. And it's just a feel that you have to get used to. On the Ruger, one thing I like about this trigger is it seems like it takes a relatively even amount of energy. From the time you start pulling the trigger, it doesn't feel like it's really stacking up a whole lot. It's a nice even curve to the top, and then you get a nice little break. I really like the way this trigger feels. And because it's so smooth, accuracy with this gun to me was a lot easier to achieve than with a lot of small, short-barreled little revolvers that I've shot. Because you can get the feel of this very easy. So once again, this isn't something you're going to get for precision shooting. That's not the idea. But you can definitely shoot well with it within the range that you're going to practice. Now, for me, that range is typically about 21 feet. There are many, many studies that have been published. You can feel free to look at the ones you like, but that is about the typical range that most encounters are going to happen within. So just for the sake of how I train, that's typically where I'm going to be. I typically don't have problems with revolvers, so as far as going over ammo, I'll tell you what I use, but I didn't really expect any problem. I've always got some of the 38 Special Federal here that I've got. I've got some Blazer 2 defensive rounds. This is a +P revolver. I really like the Spear Gold Dot here, the 135 grain +P. This is a really good round, and it doesn't feel uncomfortable when you shoot it. One thing I will give credit to this nice rubber grip. It really makes the gun comfortable to shoot these +P rounds, because this is a fairly small frame, and if you shoot a lot of +P out of just say an old steel revolver, you can really feel it. But the way this grip is set up, it's pretty comfortable as far as I'm concerned. Now, if you want to take it easy, you always can. I've played around with some of this other stuff. Like, you don't have to run hotter loads. Like, you've got stuff like this Critical Defense Light. This is like a 90 grain projectile right here. And, this stuff is super accurate. And they make all kinds of stuff like this. I'm just showing you some examples. But everything that I put into this revolver, it performed about the way I think it should within that range. When you're talking about like a 2-inch barrel at 21 feet, I'm not expecting to get, sub 1-inch accuracy, okay? But I can get decent accuracy, and that's what matters. Once again, this is going to be something that if you're in the unfortunate position to have to use it, it would stand to reason you're going to be closer than that anyway. But it performs well, and it's not hard to shoot. I think even for new shooters, this would be something that would be in everyone's comfort zone starting off. But it's a very nice shooting revolver. Well, of course, it has to be something I can comfortably carry. Now, the first thing I used as an example, of course, I showed you the little Smith here. Now, for a revolver this size, there's a couple different ways I'll carry something like this. It's very common for me to just put that right in my pocket, because this thing is so small that, if I have this sticky in my pocket facing up, this material will keep it pointing up. So I can just literally go into my pocket and draw straight out if I need the revolver for some reason. And the profile from the outside, it looks like a wallet or anything else because you don't really see anything on the outside of your clothing. So same thing here. You know, the LCR will carry in one of these the exact same way, and I've done it before. Now, what I found was a little bit more comfortable because if I can get it on my belt, I like to do it. I only pocket carry if the gun is small enough to where I can make it make sense in a front pocket. Okay, and I don't know any other way to put it because it's got to be just the right gun. This gun is small enough, but the grip is almost too big and too sticky, you know, to catch on the pocket. And so usually what I'll do there, like this is a little Galco single clip holster here. They make tons of these. You can see this one here in case you're curious about the number. But I have tons of these little holsters I've got over the years. And one thing I like about these is they cover the trigger thoroughly. And the only thing that's against the body really is the rubber part of this grip. And you got this great big clip that goes on the belt. These carry great. So whether you want appendix carry this or carry it on the side or carry it in your back, you don't have much of a profile. Now, I tend to carry something like this right at the 3 o'clock position because the revolver kind of fits the shape of most people's body pretty well. So there's lots of different options on how you can do it. But the one thing I will tell you is no matter how I carry this, the weight of this is so good that if you're talking about actually seriously keeping the gun on you all day, you know, all week, every day, if it's going to be an everyday carry, this thing is so light that it's one of the few handguns that I can carry in a holster on me and not forget per se, but not think about it because it's not always uncomfortable against your body. You're not always thinking about, is it slipping down? You know, a lot of times you'll have a gun that you really like, but it's too heavy. Maybe your belt's not quite good enough, and it seems like all day long you're pulling on it, you know, trying to keep it level. You're always messing with your jeans, and kind of a giveaway, too, that you're carrying a gun, right? Well, something like this is so light that whether it's in my pocket or whether I have it clipped in a smaller holster on the waistband, it stays put, and I don't have to mess with it. So not only is that safer, but it makes it a lot less obvious to people around me that I'm actually carrying a firearm. So very easy to carry. It's a very good choice for someone who's getting into this for the first time. Overall impressions of the Ruger Lcr 38+P. Well, I'm biased here, and you know, I think this is a great revolver, but I'm going to back that up with some solid things once again. Now, I will tell you right up front, some people will recoil a little bit based on the price. Now, I don't think these are priced that badly. For one like this, depending on where you go, it's going to be between like $575 and $600. Just depends on what your dealer's charging. You know how the gun market is. It's just been weird for years. But I think that you get a lot for your money. And, you know, there's all kinds of choices out there for 5-shot 38 special revolvers. But Ruger has been making excellent revolvers for a long time. They have a very good reputation. They're durable. Something like this is light. It's within the range of realism. It's pretty accurate. It's got a great trigger, and it's very comfortable. And once again, the fact that it's a hammerless revolver that's double action only, a lot of question marks for safety have been removed. And to me, there's a lot to be said for having something that all you have to do is pull it and then use it. And I think for many other people, there's some appeal in that department as well. So, you know, if you don't mind spending a little under $600 to get something that has those kinds of features, lightweight, and of course, once again, I think that the trigger on the LCR is just phenomenal. And that is, you know, it's not the only reason, but that's one of the reasons that this is my favorite 38 special revolver of any of them. And I keep looking for one to knock the Ruger LCR off the platform, and nothing has even come close. The only thing that's even remotely close to this is the one I compared it directly to, which is my little 642 Airweight. I love this one a lot, but I still think the trigger on this Ruger is better than the trigger on that Smith. And I love my Smith. Don't get me wrong. So Smith fans, don't hate on me, but I just feel like this Ruger has a smoother trigger within the entire range that you're pulling it back. It just feels more natural to me, and I think you get better follow-up shots and better accuracy because of it. So, like I say, I have a reason for how I feel. But anyway, so that's it. I don't think you can go wrong with the Ruger LCR. I'm not so much a fan of the 9mm version, because of the moon clips and everything, but all the other LCRs I think are great handguns, but I think this is the very best. I think 38+P it's a good cartridge. I don't think it gets enough love, and I think this is a great platform. So that's going to do it for today. We appreciate you being with us as always. Of course, we'll be back very soon with another video for you. So until that time, everybody, please stay safe and have a great day. Thank you.